Hello, welcome to Pedal Brainz, Left Brainz, bank and modes descriptions. We're going to go through all of the banks and all of the modes today and talk about what each of those do. In the context of expression, we're going to hear the results of those using a filter on some music that's playing. The left brain is an expression modulator that uses light patterns to apply expression that can be used with effects pedals. It has over 50 modes across 5 banks, and we're going to dig into those now. Starting with Bank 1, Mode 1's Squarez mode. Knob number 1 controls the maximum brightness for one side of the square waveform. And as we turn that down, you can hear the effect that it has on that. Knob number 2 controls the speed that it changes between the orange color, controlled by knob 1, and the blue color, controlled by knob number 3. So now we're going between a fully dark knob 1 and a fully bright knob 3. Knob 3 controls the brightness of the blue color. And as this turns down, you'll start to see the top of that square waveform reduce. You can bring up the orange color. Along with the bottom of the square waveform using knob 3. And that's mode 1, Squarez. Mode 2 is Trianglez mode. Knob 1 in Trianglez mode controls a duration that the light will stay lit when it reaches the top of its peak. Knob 2 controls how fast it transitions from fully dark to fully bright. And knob 3 controls the amount of time that it stays dark when it's reached the bottom of the peak. This is mode number 2, Trianglez. Mode number 3 is Trianglez Random. Trianglez Random brings randomization to the 3 knobs. They still do the same thing. Bright duration, speed, and dark duration. But now the values of those are additionally randomized so that you always get a different amount of time that scales depending on where you set the knobs. And you can see that clearest when everything is set clockwise. You can see the randomization that comes from that. And adjusting those knobs then will bring a random amount of time to each of those controls. This is mode 3, Trianglez random. Mode 4, Rainbowz mode. Rainbowz mode is a cycling pattern of rainbow colors. Offers some light variation that changes the expression. Knob number 1 controls the maximum brightness of the rainbow patterns. Knob 2 controls the speed of color cycling across the rainbow. And knob 3 adds an amount of darkness between the cycling of each rainbow pattern. That could be adjusted just to give you a little bit of space between each of the rainbow modulations. So that's mode 4, Rainbowz. Mode 5 is Rainbowz random. And this brings a randomized maximum brightness to the cycling of the rainbow patterns. So each time the rainbow pattern is revisited, it will seek a new maximum brightness, and the amount of randomization is controllable using knob number 1. The amount of brightness will allow for different amounts of randomization. Sometimes randomizing it all the way down to nothing. And this is mode 5, Rainbowz random. Mode 6 is Mountainz repeat. Mountainz repeat selects a randomized waveform when you navigate to it, and the amount of randomness of that waveform can be controlled. Knob number 1 is the chance for the value of the waveform to pause or wait somewhere along its rise or fall. Knob number 2 is the speed at which it transitions. And knob number 3 is the amount of randomness that is added to the cycling mountain of expression. And so while the pattern is always the same in Mountainz repeat, you have control over the randomness of waiting, a chance that it will pause at its ascent or descent, along with how random it is. And this is mode 6, Mountainz repeat. Mode 7, Mountainz random, continues on the Mountainz mode by randomizing the different peaks of the waveform each time it cycles through, guaranteeing an additional amount of randomness as it cycles through. The knobs are the same as Mountainz repeat, Knob number 1 controlling the chance that there will be a stop along the traversal of the waveform. Knob number 2, the speed at which it transitions through the steps of that waveform. And knob number 3, controlling the amount of randomness during that. This is mode 7, Mountainz Random. Mode 8, Attractorz Single. This is the first of the strange Attractorz modes that attempt to bring a always moving, constantly evolving pattern of expression. Something that never repeats, is always subtly cycling, and yet bringing something new to your practice. Knob number 1 is controlling the maximum brightness of the waveform. Knob number 2 controls the speed at which it evolves. And knob 3 controls an amount of randomness, all the way from something that is much more controlled when it's fully counterclockwise, increasing the amount of randomness that gets added as it goes clockwise. This is mode 8, Attractorz Single. Modes 9, Attractorz Double, adds 2 Attractorz waveforms together for something that's just a little bit more consistent. Controls are the same, but now you have a couple of overlapping Attractorz waveforms that are being summed together and brings just a little bit more consistency to the movement. This was Attractorz Double, modes 9. And finally, mode 10, Attractorz Triple, brings 3 different Attractorz waveforms in combination, lending itself to something that is much more consistent over time, but always evolving, always finding itself and attracting a kind of consistency across its pattern. So this has been Bank 1's of the pedal brain's left brain, the greatest hits, and you'll start to see some of these patterns reflected across the other banks moving forward.